Alright, first of all, who are you and how did you get in the office? I can't quite understand her. I can recognize some words from the Amiapog dialect, but I think she's saying something about portals? Oh, her name's Amila. Wait, she got away! Dreadnought guards are fundamentally broken as a branch because there's usually better alternatives to the niche they occupy than an entire operator dealing with a big enemy, but the 6 stars, Scotty and Nearl Alter are actually good. For this segment, we'll focus on Nearl Alter because Nearl awesome. A lot of you mentioned last video that Nearl S1 is good for lane holding, and that's awesome. I'm glad my horse propaganda worked. But Nearl is much more awesome than slapping her down, waiting 60 seconds and watching her pull an average night in London on the enemies. Her second skill is the usual skill most people go to, which gives her 4 shields and makes her attack absolutely massive. She automatically retreats herself at the end of the skill, so yes, you get that DP cost back. Nearl's redeployment timer will increase once she's retreated or dieted, but you can make this not happen by deploying her after a Casimir's operator. This skill ignores deployment limit, which is heavily used in CC because of deployment limit tags. Since she does a lot of damage and has shields, you can imagine using her for difficult enemies such as CC8, Tola, and Candle Knight. The shields let her survive whatever hellish tags you took, and her attack was big enough to slap Viviana to death. Tola's defense is a lot higher than Candle Knight, so Nearl would do less damage to him, but she's still a good option to keep him busy on the field while you're dealing with everything else. Another difficult enemy Nearl was used against were the basic flowers of CC deepness. Okay, to be fair, this is Risk 38, and you can imagine with all those tags stacked on top of each other, the basic enemies become extremely menacing. Especially with elemental damage, you essentially have to kill the enemy before they drain that bar, so even though Nearl isn't doing anything super flashy, it's a job that only she could do. She is, however, used to speed up the first to talk stall by ignoring deployment limit and getting some extra damage in. She's deployed after Gravel to lower her deployment timer. In these cases, Nearl's hella droppable nature with S2 made her place in the squad, and even though she has an increased redeployment timer when you don't have a Casimir's op to pair her with, the fact that she ignores deployment limit alone makes her valuable enough to bring. Skill 2 is great and all, but what about her third skill? Nearl's third skill lets her slam a blazing sun on an open adjacent tile, dealing true damage and stunning nearby enemies for a couple of seconds. Nearl gets cracked stats with an expanded range, dealing true damage to enemies blocked by the blazing sun or herself. A little fun fact that isn't mentioned in the skill description is that if the last operator deployed was Casimir's, the Blazing Sun Slam will deal another hit of true damage. This skill is one of the best skills for true damage, even if it does have the quirky condition of the enemies having to be blocked by Nearl or her summon. Because Nearl can let her totem do the tanking while still getting the true damage out, it's great for CC10. She's used in max risk to ignore the 80% physical and arts dodge that the boss has, and with Gnosis' damage amp, Nearl can actually get him in a single cycle of her skill. Surtr is the... Surtr? I can't really say a lot of interesting things about her. You kind of just place her down, wait 5 seconds, and press the win button. Yeah, that's about it for her. Alright, here's the trap. We have Keltit's tacos set up, and I don't know a single person who can't resist those tacos. And then as soon as she falls for the bait, we trigger the cage. Chen the Awesome has been beaten down by the community for the longest time, and while I wouldn't prioritize building her if you're a beginner or even an intermediate player, when she works, she goes hard. Both Irene and Chen are part of the Swordmaster branch, and they're both used for similar things, which is instant burst damage. Chen's first talent gives all allies that have offensive or defensive recovery skills 1 SP every 4 seconds when she's deployed. This talent obviously includes Chen herself, and it's extremely useful for letting her skills charge without needing enemies around. Remember that all Swordmaster skills are offensive recovery, so not having to rely on hitting enemies is a really good strength for Chen. Her second talent gives her stats and physical dodge, which is okay, I guess. It's nothing too incredibly useful, just a bunch of meh stat additions. Everyone at the start of Arknights shilled Chen's second skill, but it's fallen off quite a bit, so the real gamer skill we use nowadays is her third. It deals 10 consecutive slashes to the nearest enemy, with each slash doing big physical damage. The last slash stuns the enemy hit for 4 seconds. Despite the really simple skill description, it has a lot of quirks. First off, on Hella Drop, it's only 10 SP to get her to fully charge the skill, which is very easy to get, especially with Chen's first talent. This skill is also a massive attack skill multiplier, so Chen scales really well with buffers. These two factors already make Chen's third skill great for taking care of tanky enemies. But there's an even awesomer secret this skill is hiding. It has iframes. During the skill, Chen becomes invulnerable and untargetable, and this is the source for a lot of shenanigans. I know a lot of you probably struggled with Emperor's Blade from Walk in the Dust, so here's my auto of WD8. Chen kills him in a single skill for first phase, and the fart cloud lands on Warfarin because the boss's targeting switches to last deployed since he can't target Chen due to her iframes. During his second phase, Chen kills him so fast that all the fart clouds land on the same last deployed operator, which happens to be Warfarin again, making handling this stage an absolute breeze. Instead of trying to plan out where you want to bait 4 domains, you only have to plan out 2 of them. Chen is also immune to status effects and damage during the skill duration, so with decent timing, Chen can bait the bind of Sarkaz casters and the stun of defense crushers. Chen's module gives her more skill damage and increases the effectiveness of her SP battery talent by a lot. It's a great module for her, letting her charge her skills a lot faster and deal even more damage with them. Even though 10% more damage doesn't seem like a lot, it adds an extra 4,000 damage to her raw skill damage, which is pretty significant. Chen is awesome, but Irene killed Chen. It's really sad. Irene's first talent gives her a 50% chance to ignore defense on her attacks, and she's guaranteed to ignore defense against aerial units. Irene has her own mechanic, Levitate, which basically turns a ground enemy into an aerial one. If the enemy is weight 4 or above, the levitation duration is halved. Her second talent increases her attack speed and doubles the effect if there are seaborne enemies. Since all her skills are offensive recovery, she gets to charge her skills faster if she's constantly attacking, which is pretty good. Irene's third skill deals a big hit of damage to all enemies in a diamond-shaped range, levitating them for 4 seconds, at which she'll deal 12 hits of AoE damage. To put it very bluntly, Irene beats Chen in instant burst damage, which is the main reason why you'd use the skill. It's a very sad day for Chen Awesome. Irene even does AoE damage, while Chen is just purely single target. Irene has her module, which lets her ignore defense and gives her extra attack in her attack speed talent. The module is not that special, it's literally just more stat additions. You might think that Irene is levitate reliant, so enemies with 4 weight with high defense would make Chen usage more viable, but I did the math, and trust me on this, the impact is not big enough in Chen's favor. Against a weight 4, 800 defense enemy, a max Chen and Irene will do the same amount of damage. Against a weight 4, 1200 defense enemy, Irene does more damage. There isn't really a situation where Chen wins damage-wise, but there are some places Irene is lacking in where Chen has the upper hand. Even though Irene can hit aerial enemies with her skill, Chen's module can make her not rely on enemies at all to charge her skills, while Irene still has to hit something. Chen also has her funny iframes where Irene can still get hit during her skill. While Irene is the new go-to operator for instant burst damage shenanigans, Chen still has her quirks that may come in handy in the future. We just want to know what you're doing here and how you got here in the first place. Also, we found the Fumo first, so can we get it back?